This is how to beat every single game in Squid Game Season 2. But before we go any further, there's going to be spoilers, so be sure to watch Squid Game and let's go and get into it. The first game, rock, paper, scissors, -1. This is the first game that was being hosted by the recruiter, but the participants were the detectives who were hunting down the recruiter, but they played a variation of rock, paper, scissors, but they also had the added benefit and hell of having Russian roulette as the stakes, you know? So how do we actually beat this game? Since we do have this buddy, then we could do like some non-verbal body language, you know? But if you look very carefully, our hands are exposed and we're not handcuffed to a chair. We're not like surrounded. There's rope around the body. What is rope gonna do? But the way to easily win this game would be to get up out of the seat. Of course, just stand up, use a chair and beat him up. He's only 6'2", but the easiest way to beat this game would be to get up, not play the game, and punch the recruiter in the balls. Easy. Next game. Game number 2, Russian roulette. But in case you don't know, Russian roulette is a 6-shooter revolver gun that has 1 bullet in the chamber. You gotta spin that barrel around and you gotta put the gun up to your head and hope you don't get your brains blown out. But if you're unlucky, you end up dying. So how do we actually beat this game? With the way Jihan and the recruiter played it, they didn't actually reset the chamber after every time the gun was clicked, meaning that we can easily keep track of the bullet after each turn. But this also leaves it up to luck and you're not really in control. But you can choose to play the game fairly and unfairly. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the unfairly because at this point, just take the gun, throw it across the room and get the recruiter a smack on the head because he's pretty evil and you saw what he did with the homeless people. Why do we gotta play this game in the first? But game number 3, red light, green light, the game that started all with Squid Game. So how do you beat this game? But in case you want an explanation of red light, green light, all you have to do is just go when the doll isn't looking, bruh. But as we saw with Squid Game Season 2, the doll doesn't see movement that is behind, that is obstructed. Like, you remember that part where you see Jihan move his hand behind his back and he didn't get count as a mover, right? So we can do that same strat that Jihan did when he gathered everybody in the game and brought them all into one line, but the bigger person will be at the front and the little people will be behind that person, putting more pressure on the big person, but at the expense of the little people being more lenient and making more mistakes. But we do need a really strong leader who does have this idea inside a Squid Game, but we're gonna have to play as a team. Not everybody wants to play as a team, but the easiest and simplest way if you do want to solo queue this is by going through or going to like the very edges of the arena by sticking by that grassland just so you can focus. But when you're in there in the middle, there's just so much happening. Like literally when you're in the middle, there's a people who will be running and in panic. But you know, humans have literally evolved to like be like tribe species. So literally monkey see, monkey. But if you really want to win this and you really want to get that bread and lose a couple people along the way, hugging the walls on the left and right would be probably the easiest way to lock in and focus. You're away from the action, you're away from the gunshots, you're away from people's drama. That's all you have to do. But my overall strategy for this game would be to literally stay on the very edges of the arena so I can lock in, focus, and then go in and out. But you gotta remember, the announcer is gonna go on, lock up. So like literally wait for that delay. You want to stop before she turns around, of course, and after, and then go. It's pretty simple. But all you gotta do is just lock in and don't get stung by a bee. Red, white, brave, bro. But let's move on to game 4, the 6-legged Pentagon. Pentagon. What's the name of it? But this game basically involves groups of 5 that are each tied to each other by the ankle, but they cannot be separated. But each person is assigned 1 single game out of the 5 games. 5 players, 5 games. But if they don't so happen to finish all the games within 5 minutes, then everybody on the team gets shot. Yeah, the stakes are high with this one. So how do we beat this? Since we have 5 people and the only way to actually win the game is by beating all the games under time pressure, we're gonna have to get the most efficient players who are most confident in the game. So this brings up the first game, the Dachi. This is the game that we saw in the first season of the show with Ji-hun getting slapped by the recruiter, but players have to use their dachi, which is paper, to flip over the other person's paper by throwing their paper really hard to flip it over. It has to be thrown down really hard, but luckily our homegirl player 120 already knew how to play the game since she played the game when she was a kid. But literally you would have to flip your own dachi over to where you have the solid side facing up. Now the only thing wrong with this game is time. All right, so you want to get up. If you miss, pick it up and throw it down. Pick it up and throw it down. You literally can't give up with this one. All right, on to the next mini game. But in this game, the player was given 2 stones, one to be set up and another for that to be thrown. The player had to throw the rock at the stone that was sitting up in order to win the game. But this game is so easy. All you need to do is just to lock in. But there's one issue with this game. But remember, you are behind the white line. Luckily, there's no rule for it to be an underhand throw or an overhand throw. So literally, I would recommend underhanding throwing, as I'm pretty confident that I could hit a stone like that. But you cannot mess up. You cannot mess up more than 5 times or else you're getting shot, bro. But let's move on to the third game. The third game in the triathlon was Ganji. This game has multiple levels to it. We're gonna start at level 1. But when one dice is in the air, you have to pick up another dice and then catch the dice that's already in the air. Repeat this step for all the dice that are remaining. How do you beat this part of the game? If you're dyslexic and get your left and right confused, do not play this game. Have your team play it. But if you aren't, then go ahead and throw the dice up in the air and then pick up the other dice that's on the table, then catch that dice that's up in the air. What you want to do is get some rhythm to it. Hit that 1 2 1 1 2 1 2 2 1 3 1 2 1 4. Literally get some rhythm to it, bro. It's kind of hard to explain, but the next level is even crazier. Level 2 is just like level 1, but you throw 1 dice up in the air and pick up 2 dice that are on the table. For you really got to get a rhythm down and get the timing in, and tell your teammates to shut up. Tell them to shut up. Tell them to shut up. You got to lock in, okay? Because you cannot lose this one. The third level follows the same, where you throw 1 dice up in the air, but instead of 2, you pick up 3 dice all at once. But Bray, what if I'm failing? What do I do? Hey, slow down, Buckwheat. Level 4 is pretty easy. You just throw 1 dice up in the air, then collect all 4 of the dice all at once. Let's move on to level 5. You have to catch all the dice on the back of your hand, bro. But you have to throw them back up again and then flip your hand over to where you catch all the dice with just your palm. But Bray, how do we beat this game? Hey, bro, how do you beat it? But if you were to ask me 5 minutes ago, I would say all you gotta do is just time it. Literally pace yourself with this game, because this game seems to be really more so about pacing and rhythm, more and technical. All right, so make sure you practice with like the dirt while you're waiting, but you also gotta have that rhythm to it. All right, hey, good luck, bro. The second to last game is called spinning top, but you just have to wrap string around the bottom and top of a spinning top, and then yoink it so where the top, when the top lands, then it actually spins when you throw it. But in order for this to actually count as a win, the spinning top has to be spinning long enough for the soldier to actually see it. So how do we beat this game? Of course, you want to get the most competent player who has actually had experience with these spinning tops, but you just want to spin it top and bottom, and hey, if you fail, do that forwards and backward technique like they did in the show. And the only way to beat this game is literally through technical skill. The final game in the triathlon was called Jeggy. This is where you kick the paper jeggy up into the air with only your feet. And in Squid Game, you only have to do 5 of these kick-ups, which is relatively easy. But in order to beat this game, turn your foot inside so that way the jeggy gets more surface area, and just kick it up, pace yourself, and have your team help you like the front man did with Ji-hun whenever he actually messed up, just so you can clutch. Remember, the jeggy doesn't have to go super high in the air as long as you can actually kick it up 5 times. Even if the jeggy touches your foot on the last one and doesn't go up, it will count as a win. So how do you beat this game? Keep it up in the air by any means necessary, more than 5 times. But this last game is even crazier. So how are we gonna beat it? Actually, we forgot to cross the finish line before the time runs out in our Pentagon. All right, so as long as we cross the finish line with all of our team, then we're not gonna become a Swiss cheese board, okay? Now we can move on to the final game, which is called Mingles. But how do we beat this game?
This game is by far the scariest,
Most brutal, but also the most yap.
How do we actually beat the game?
Since the rules of the game are to stay on the rotating platform while the children's music is going on, but then when the music stops and a number is called out, then you have to pair up with the number of people that the number is called out. But since we have such a large pool of people and everyone is in mass panic since they know they're gonna die when they lose the game, our best bet is to stay with the duo, guaranteed, because we know for sure there's no way the announcer is gonna call one person. But if we can stick by our one clean buddy, like our ride or die, then we have a higher chance to win the game. But in the worst case scenario, the announcer decides to call number 3, then we're gonna have to kick someone out in our group of 4, and we're gonna have to find one more person. But sticking with the duo is gonna make it way more likely to join another group, especially with numbers like 6 or 4 or 5 or something. It's just way more easier. It is better than sticking by yourself, but in the worst case scenario where you do have to split off from your duo to join another group, then hey, do what you gotta do, bro. I don't make the rules here. Do what you got to do. But the best case scenario would be to stay with a duo, find your Batman to your Robin, okay? But if you just so happen to get 3rd or 4th, be prepared to betray some people. This game is gonna test your loyalty. This game is gonna be set up. But hey, stick with your duo until the soldiers call the game to be over. This was by far the worst game and the most brutal game. This one had me on the edge of my sofa couch. I literally had my adrenaline and my muscle went up, bro. This was by far the most scariest game ever.